All right, we're live. It's Saturday morning, September 20th, 2025. At 5 p.m. today, we're going to have an open panel discussion. So if you've been wanting to call in, now's the time. If you're a member at the IPS website or my blog or YouTube or Patreon, your free tickets have been sent out. You just go where it says open panel discussion, and at the below the membership line there's a link and then the password to get in, which is really simple. It's IPS, and I'll be there about 4:30, about 30 minutes before we begin, and we're going to discuss everything, the ins and outs of the Charlie Kirk psyop and its relevance to the bigger meta script. And this is getting deeper. Like, I've already gone into the concurrent programming, which no one can refute. There are some weak-ass refutations of predictive programming based on a straw man misrepresentation of what we're presenting, evidence-wise. But empirical research with regard to the concurrent programming has no refutation. And it gets deeper, as I said. The Tempest. And you know what's kind of interesting is, I was talking about how the Tempest completely mirrors what happens to Charlie Kirk, and how subsequent episodes continue as it focuses on the widow, just as Erica Kirk replaces him at TPUSA, and she's going to be speaking tomorrow at his memorial with the president and vice president. But what I didn't know was 11 days before he went to Utah, Charlie Kirk was in South Korea, and The Tempest is a South Korea spy thriller. But he was there, and this massive crowd was praying for him. Imagine that huge crowd in South Korea praying for Charlie Kirk. 11 days later, just like a character in that South Korean spy thriller who gets shot in the neck in the church, he dies in the exact same way. We get the same visuals. It's quite remarkable, but it's par for the course. This is standard. We're observing these things consistently, but there's quite a lot more to discuss. And one of the things I want to discuss is the meta conspiracy. The meta conspiracy of conspiracy theories all being part of a strategy. All of the conspiracy theories that you see bandied about on X, it's part of a strategy. The strategy is, let's contain the narratives. Let's direct the minds of those who don't believe the mainstream story. And let's direct them into these rabbit trails. And if you follow them all the way through, it'll lead to a predetermined conclusion that's really predictable if you've been looking at this long enough, as we have been. And these other conspiracies, this batch of conspiracies, are being called out. There's a lot of conspiracy theory fatigue, and it's being engineered. It has been engineered to turn the public towards the mainstream media as the authoritative source, because what they do is they plant false leads. They let you run with it, you get your clicks, and then they rug pull it, and they take away that particular talking point or video that showed a discrepancy, and they have, oh no, this is the explanation for that. Which isn't to say that they don't have a point. They have a point. But more importantly, the fact that there are planted narratives, the fact that there is misdirection, tells you something, does it not? That in itself tells you something. There's an ongoing attempt to direct people away from certain conclusions. And by the way, there's this video of a chair where one of the individuals who rushes behind Charlie after the shooting throws a chair up, and it appears to disappear partially through a table. And what does that mean? Like, what could that be? And I'm thinking about it. You know how in the ISS they use augmented reality, where they have something floating in the air that's not really there? Like, you may not have seen these, but you can find images of, like, an astronaut grabs a hat and he moves it to someone on the other side of the ISS. He grabs a hat, he puts it on a shelf, but the hat's still there because the AVR, the augmented virtual reality artifact, isn't perfectly lined up. Well, they could be inserting AVR, augmented reality clips, to obscure things. So when the guy's unplugging the squib, removing the blood bladder, you have this chair that just happens to fly in front of him. So I'm just looking at various explanations for what we're seeing. What's up, Sovereign Gamer Troublemaker? Here is your blue wrench. This is the most significant psyop since George Floyd. You might even, I mean, this is really the most significant assassination since probably JFK. And if you haven't been paying attention, there's a, like I said before, right-wingers aren't going to riot. There's not going to be a White Lives Matter riot. They will do candlelight vigils. It's happening. Candlelight vigils like crazy. Big gatherings. And it's only accelerating. Tomorrow it's going to be in Glendale. Penguinati says the ring changed fingers. Yeah, look, that to me looks like truth or bait. I'm not looking at that too closely, because you have to remember too, they will provide you with really bad video. They'll provide you with something grainy, and then you'll see something, and then later they'll provide better footage or an explanation, like the little lapel pin, the microphone on his chest. At first I had explanations for what it could be, but later we get the explanation. So my point is, we have to be open, but we can't rush and say this is definitive evidence of CGI. But also we have to remain cognizant of the fact of fakeability and what tools they do have. What kind of special effects do they have? Like, there's still some credible perspectives on this that would suggest that a lot of the blood was augmented by what we saw in the footage, and it'd be the same tech. Think about like a filter. Like anybody who understands Snapchat understands how easy it is to add something that's not really there. So let's say you had 5 or 6 people who are plants, who have their iPhones ready to deliver the footage that's going to go viral. Yeah, those could be plants who could have preloaded, animated virtual reality augmentation to put over it, and you could make anything happen. I mean, they could have made his head explode. The question is, can you fool a live audience? Well, you can fool a live audience if you combine it with a squib. Easy. Eric Johnson said, on 9/14/2001, George Bush said that the people who knocked down the buildings will hear us soon. On 9/13/2025, Erica Kirk said the world will hear the cries of the widow. Yeah, and cries of the widow comes out of, I think, Ezekiel. But there's also a reference to the cries of the widow, the widow's son. There's references to that in the Masonic third degree, where they kill Hiram Abiff and resurrect him. And interestingly, TPUSA released a statement, and they mention King Solomon. There's some extra biblical content regarding King Solomon that's worked into these rituals, but none of this stuff is insignificant. The widow reference. See, because the Hiram Abiff, the assassinated architect of King Solomon's temple, his last words are, "Is there no help for the son of the widow?" And he raises his arms up. They call it the distress signal. So he puts his arms up, "Is there no help for the widow's son?" And then he gets his head smashed and his throat hit and his chest hit, and he dies. And then Solomon raises him. The point of it is, hands up, don't shoot. I've long said, hands up, don't shoot is a distress signal, and it has some Masonic import. And so I think it might even be significant that Charlie raises his arms up before he falls down. It might be a little bit of theater. BSBB says, been following you since the Nipsey saga. Hey, thanks for joining. And that has everything to do with this. These are all interconnected psychological operations. They're part of a continuum. Something else, a few things that come up. So Donald Trump's nephew, that's what he calls himself. His name is Horatio Blow. He's a MAGA rapper. He looks kind of like Rosie O'Donnell, but with like a beard. Anyway, this MAGA rapper does a pro-lynching rap song, which is crazy because there was just a lynching or somebody hanged. And they're saying, no, it was a suicide. But now Colin Kaepernick comes out of retirement, out of nowhere. Now he's in the news again. He's paying for a new autopsy on this person who was possibly lynched after MAGA calls for lynchings, even uses the N-word in that song. Now what's crazy about it is the name. His name is Trey Reed. His full name looks like Dame Martin Trayvon. So you have this Trayvon Martin reference, Trayvon, Tyreek, Tyree Nichols. I have a list of about 15 different names with this code, which all has the anagram Trey. What does that refer to? Well, I think it refers to Hiram of Tyre. I think it's all referencing the same essential story where you have this sacrificial king who dies and resurrects. Now, anyway, getting back to Erica Kirk, calling herself a widow. Well, that TV show, The Tempest, is all about the widow because the main character dies right away. So it's about the widow's rise to power. And so they keep referencing her as a widow. And I mentioned how it's The Tempest, which is a Shakespeare reference. We always talk about, like, As You Like It, the world's a stage. We always talk about the world stage, Globe Theater, Shakespearean stuff. So here you have this concurrent programming called The Tempest. And there's a couple of phrases out of The Tempest that we're all familiar with. Brave New World. Lots we can go into there. But also, hell is empty, all the devils are here. And I mentioned this the day after the shooting. I said, this idea of hell is empty, the devils are all here is on full display with the rabid leftists drooling at the sight of Charlie Kirk's blood, celebrating his death. I mean, they're just unleashing their inner demons with no reservations at all. They're just like dropping their masks. And I'm like, yeah, this is hell is empty, the devils are all here on full display. Well, I see that statement being thrown around because some of these Charlie Kirk grave dancers are acting like they're possessed. And I wonder, are these actors? Some of them act like cackling witches. One of them looks like what's her name? Linda Blair, the girl from The Exorcist. You can find them. Yeah, Reality Witness. I say this is the most significant assassination since JFK, and I've got a lot to back that up. And there's quite a few references. Like even Roger Stone's comparing it to JFK. Roger Stone said, Charlie Kirk called me. He said, hey, let's talk about JFK. And then he gets shot. A ton of JFK stuff in here. Because the JFK assassination was a scripted storyline. And it borrows from Shakespeare. It borrows from Macbeth. It borrows from quite a lot of sources, Wizard of Oz. But it also has this meta script that ties it into what King Kill 33 is all about it. The Masonic killing ritual of Hiram Abiff. The King Kill 33 and Charlie Kirk. I'm kind of comparing the two because if you look, it's coded this way. How long did it take them to catch the killer? 33 hours exactly. And I do see people calling for Erica Kirk to run as VP. And again, the widow in The Tempest runs for office, taking over the New Republicans for her assassinated husband. And interestingly, I think it was Stu Peters and others have alluded to the idea that maybe she had the assassination done because she's power hungry or something like that. And that's kind of the subtext in The Tempest as well. The family thinks that she had him killed. So I watched this 2-minute video of Erica Kirk as Miss Arizona. And it shows her playing basketball. And she's jersey 11. And she's dribbling the ball against player number 22. So you got this 11-22 thing. Again, JFK coded. Not a coincidence. But we're going to go through all of this stuff. I've got a ton of it in Zoom. So if you want to be involved, if you want to chime in, you want to talk, it's open. It's going to be an open phones type format. We'll do Q&A, but we're going to go through everything. Charlie Kirk's last YouTube video, his last YouTube short, is called Enough is Enough. And if you're familiar with this, we've been talking about it since before Trump was shot. The Illuminati playing card has been calling for the sniper and associating the sniper with the phrase enough is enough. So that phrase has been used consistently to foreshadow the shooting. Happened with Trump. Hulk Hogan even said, enough is enough, when our president gets shot. So here we are. Charlie Kirk's last video is called Enough is Enough. He gets shot, and Time Magazine has the death scene in red, and it says enough. Yeah, I read Miles Mathis's piece on the subway thing. I got to read his Charlie Kirk thing. Mathis is pretty good in a lot of ways, but he doesn't have our methodology. You know, his reasoning for thinking that the girl was not really killed in the subway is the guy had dreads, so he couldn't have been in jail. So his reasoning is kind of specious. He doesn't have our methodology. I don't think he's a strict auto-hoaxer, but he gets it. But it's very easy. It doesn't take, you know, Sherlock Holmes to say, oh, that's fake. We're not just saying it's fake. We're proffering a more expanded understanding of it by including all the supplementary information, the peripheral, the subtext, the entertainment media that reinforces the psyop. There are plenty of other indicators of hoax. You can't just rely solely on the visual depictions. And he often goes into bloodlines, and he's like, oh, this person's last name means they're related to this person, which means... So he's kind of, at the end of the day, he's blaming Jews. Like, so I don't really have... I mean, I do like some of his statements, but again, I'm finding a lot of quality analysts on X. A lot of people figured out about the binary, where you got the approved version, and then you have the approved conspiracies, but nobody calls it fake. Mathis claims Kirk, the wife, and the shooter are first cousins. Exactly. That's what I mean. He focuses on things you can't prove, like family trees, they're related, and yeah, I don't have any use for that. His methodology isn't exactly rigorous. It's kind of cherry-picked. There's nothing to stand on. And again, it's easy to call stuff fake. And one other thing too, and I have to reiterate this, is that we're not calling it fake just because. It's not reflexive. You know, I'm like, this looks real. You have to be able to admit that. It looks real. Magic shows look real. Movies. You go to movies to see stuff that looks real. Looking real is not good enough. I have this concept I'm working on called the blind auto-hoaxer. Or not the blindfolded auto-hoaxer, meaning you should be able to determine whether or not something is likely staged, likely part of our manufactured history, just based on all of the surrounding information, narratives, and content, and the immediately applicable utility of it in terms of its ability to change or advance some political agenda. Like right now, they use the death of Charlie Kirk to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. And the protests are picking up. Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel's part of this because they're creating the outrage. It's all about generating outrage. And then ABC Studios got shut up. But Jimmy Kimmel's people are protesting. There's going to be protests tomorrow at Charlie Kirk's funeral. Yeah, Dark Ghost Wind, exactly. They blamed it on Discord. Discord sows discord by spreading disease X. You know, a long time ago, I was recommended Discord by a QAnon likely operative who was trying to, a whole lot of stuff. He was basically infiltrating our Discord, trying to tell us the white hats are going to save us. But I remember at the time thinking, you know, the name Discord is going to shoot us in the foot at some point. Like, it might even be the case that they're using Discord in order to get the public to justify censorship. And now it's happening. I mean, you even have the most banned comedian in the world, Owen Benjamin, getting behind censoring social media. He's like, yep, you got to have a digital ID to go on social media because it's too dangerous. I'm like, how did that happen? Who paid that guy? Till says, have you reviewed the remaining Illuminati playing cards? I have to look through more of them. John Francis said, I'm glad you went live. My favorite channel right now. Sick of slop content. Well, you're going to like what we come up with tonight, because I'm kind of about to have my phone overheat. But tonight, we're going to spend several hours going through everything here. And again, I'm going to go through all the various interpretations. Oh yeah, Sam Hyde did the same thing. Sam Hyde's like, we're all Charlie Kirk. Someone mentioned Tommy Robinson also said that we're all Charlie Kirk. I'm not Charlie Kirk. I'm not a deceiver. I'm not a psyop actor, death faker, provocateur. Charlie Kirk's a manufactured martyr. He's considered a Christian martyr. I mean, that should concern people. I mean, this is showing you how brainwashing works. But no, I'm not Charlie Kirk. My sister isn't the girl killed in the subway. I'm not going to personalize these psyops. King Ravana, the cards are ready, but I can't follow the orders. I'm in the deep in the red. It's a long story. I don't have time for it now, but Amazon essentially sabotaged my book order and I had to refund everything. So I'm like hundreds of dollars behind. So I'm going to make it happen. But stay focused here. We're going to be live at 5. It's going to be like 3 hours. And it's going to be a Zoom call if you want to get in. I mentioned at the beginning how to get there. And it'll be open phones. But we're going to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. We are not controlled opposition. We identify it as such. If anything, we are the uncontrolled opposition. And our perspective is, and the only reason I brought up Owen Benjamin is he said, there's a lot of people calling this fake. It's like, he's not calling out the alternative conspiracy theories. He's only calling out what we're doing. All right, well, we'll be back.